Hello and welcome to Mind Mastery Accelerator, your destination for becoming a fearless entrepreneur. I am your host, attorney Sean Arnold, and I am here, as I am every week, with your other host, Master Executive Performance Coach, Mr. Vernon Webb. How are you this evening, Vernon?
Very well, Sean. And yourself?
Doing quite well, thank you. Vernon, tonight we discuss the hidden compass. We are going to discuss what happens when our values are misaligned and how we can work to get them into alignment so that we can live the life that we want to live.
They're here.
So, when our values are in alignment, life is easy. Life is smooth. There's no resistance inside. So we can get the things that we want. But when our values are out of alignment, that's when the trouble begins. When you feel stuck, when you feel indecisive or conflicted, chances are your values are fighting with each other like jealous siblings. Sometimes your values are out of alignment, and sometimes your values and your beliefs can be out of alignment. So, what does that look like? Well, for example, in the area of career and money, you may, for example, have the value of security. So you have a really good job and you work a lot of hours so that you can be secure. And on the other hand, you have the value of freedom. And those two values are absolutely at war with one another. You can feel trapped by that secure job. And when you quit that secure job, now you're over here experiencing all of this freedom, but you're broke. And so you're back in pain again. There are other ways that your values can be out of alignment in the area of career and money. For example, if you're trying to build a business on one hand, and on the other hand, you want to spend time with your kids. So when you're at work, you are getting that plane up at the 50,000 foot level and you are building your business and getting those clients in and doing all the things that you need to do in order to build the business, and yet you feel awful, you feel guilty because you're not over here with your children. So you go over here with your children and you're attending the recitals and you're attending the baseball games and you're spending the quality time, you're teaching them to read, they're becoming these fantastic human beings, and yet the plane over there in your business is no longer at the 50,000 foot level. It is very close to the ground. And so you find yourself constantly in conflict. Do I build my business or do I build my children? This is an enormously painful conflict that people go through. Sometimes your values are actually in conflict with your belief system. So, for example, you value vitality, but you believe that if you work out too much, you're a woman, oh, you don't want to get too muscular. And so if I work out too much, I'll get too muscular and then no one will be attracted to me. And so you come over here and you start working out and you get to that point of vitality, but then there is this sense of pain that you feel because you're not looking the way you in your mind think you should look when you're working out. So you're in conflict. Sometimes you're working out, sometimes you just flat out don't because you don't like the way it makes you look. How about if you are thinking about love and you really value connection and authenticity in a personal relationship, but you have a belief they won't love me if they know this thing about me. And so you've got a conflict here, don't you? You've got a value conflicting with your beliefs. Vernon, let me tell you a little bit about what happened to me when I started trying to build my law firm. And then you can tell me what Silva Mind Control would do for me to help me actually build my business. When I started to build my law firm, well, frankly, I lost my job during the Great Recession. I'm transaction counsel, and when the banks froze up, there were no transactions. And so my desk froze up, my job froze up, and I wound up on the sidewalk. And I was deathly afraid of looking for another job because I didn't think that anybody would hire me. At that point, I think I was in my early 50s or my late 40s, and I was just absolutely sure nobody would hire me. So I never looked for a job. I was trying to build my business. Now, here's my challenge. I had the value system of an employee, and I'm trying to be an employer. Well, what's the difference? The value system of an employee. Well, an employee comes to work at 8:30 and they leave at 5. They don't want to know about the inner workings of the business. They don't care. They just want their paycheck every couple of weeks. As an employee, I was fairly well paid. And so that meant that my head was down, my elbows were out, and I was what I call a baby bird. My mouth was open and they were feeding me checks. Every 2 weeks, they were giving me a check. I didn't spend the last check because my head was down and my elbows were out. I wasn't out there partying in the bars and doing all the fun things to spend the money. So I didn't value money. I never had an issue with money. Let me tell you what I also didn't value as an employee. I didn't value prospecting. So my challenge was that I had been practicing law for 20 years when I started my law firm. I could pick up the phone and call you and talk to you all day long about your business because hey, I'm a business attorney. That's what I had been doing for 20 years.
Yeah.
But what I could not do was pick up the phone and call you and talk to you about my business. I could not ask for the sale. I could not ask for the business. Even though you were my client at the law firm,
Mhm.
when it came time for me to build my own law firm, I was in so much pain over the disconnect in my value structure. I was literally face down on my kitchen floor, unable to build my business. Vernon, I managed to find the answer in NLP. But what would Silva have done for me under those circumstances?
Well, I have to tell you, Sean, when it comes down, and I relate to what you're saying, by the way, in terms of uh, valuing money versus valuing freedom, what Silva would have you do is to identify what you perceive as the current situation. Look at your values in terms of what's holding you there. What do you want? I mean, really, what do you really want? Most people don't know what they want. I mean, they're pretty sure they haven't got it, but they don't know what they want. So, in using the Silva technique, mirror the mind, in the blue frame mirror is the current situation. See yourself experiencing that, what you're trying to get away from. You want to change that because it's a matter of going toward or away. You want to get away from pain and towards pleasure, something that makes you feel good. So you've got to understand what it is that you want that's going to get you where you want to go. Once you're clear on what your current situation is, then you want to take a look at that mirror, smash it, blow it up, do whatever you have to do. When that mirror is gone, there's nothing there, then you create a mirror that has a white frame around it because that's where your focus is going to be. Now, again, what does success look like to you? Well, mentally, physically, and emotionally, mentally, you're sitting there in your white frame mirror and you've got what you want. You're happy with your job. You're happy with who you are. When you look at Sean, you smile. When you think about the money that you're making, you're feeling prosperous. And those are the things. And when you hear what your friends are saying about you, that's what you're hearing. So it's visualizing, mental picture. How are you feeling when you hear that auditory? And the kinesthetic is, how do you feel? And when you look at that enough and long enough, and I say long enough, twice a day, 15 minutes a day, enjoy the success. And what your subconscious mind now understands is that old blue frame, feeling bad, poor posture, ain't got no money, that's gone. That's not, you don't even look at that again. When you think about your situation, you only want to be able to see what it is that you want to go to. You've got new values and alignments. What are you going to hear from the people around you? And oh, yes, how are you going to feel? So now you've changed things around and your values and your beliefs are in sync. And when your values and beliefs are in sync, and I've heard you say this enough times, you don't know what fear looks like when you start going after what it is that you want. So that is really what Silva would do from that perspective.
It's
There,
very
I know,
important.
are many different processes that NLP uses. I'd be interested in your sharing with our community one or two of those, if you would.
Absolutely. One thing I want our listeners to be really clear on is exactly what our values are. Our values are our deep motivations. These are the things that are actually driving our behavior in the various areas of our lives. So, in the area of career and money, or family relationships, community relationships, all of these various areas of our lives, our values actually drive our behavior. And you heard Vernon allude to toward and away from motivations. And what he is saying is that if we are thinking of our values and everything that we think in terms of that value is positive, then we think of that as being a toward motivation. We are motivated toward that value. If, on the other hand, we are motivated to avoid pain, then that is an away motivation. And so a really good example of this would be Oprah Winfrey. We all know that Oprah has built an amazing career for herself. She's a billionaire, and she, she was she was on the red carpet one day, and she was actually interviewed on the red carpet, and the interviewer asked her, "Oh, Oprah, you've done all these wonderful things in your career. Why do you do it? Why do you work? Why do you continue to work?" And she sort of jokingly said, "Well, why do I what? Why do I work, or why do I work out?" And the interviewer said, "Well, both. Why do you work, and why do you work out?" And she said, "Well, why do I work? Well, I have this vision and these things that I can do for humanity and the changes that I can make in the world. And she had this wonderful, expansive view of why she worked. And so the reporter said, "Well, why do you work out?" And she said, "Why do I work out? I don't want a fat butt." Now, ladies and gentlemen, think about Oprah for a moment. Think about what she has built for herself with her toward motivation towards her career, towards the changes that she can make for humanity. And think about the struggles that she's had with her weight. And she said her deep motivation towards her weight is she doesn't want a fat butt. That is a way motivation. So NLP thinks of values in, you know, a lot of different ways. We have processes to help you actually elicit your values,
Mhm.
and then we will determine, are you motivated toward the value or are you motivated away from the value? Because if you are motivated away from the value, you're only going to get so far. If, for example, you're trying to lose weight and your motivation is you don't want a fat butt, you're going to work out and you're going to diet until you lose a certain amount of weight, until you don't think emotionally you have a fat butt. Once you get to that point where you feel, I don't have a fat butt, you're going to stop losing weight. And it doesn't matter whether you actually got to that strong body that you were envisioning. But if your motivation is instead, I want that strong body and I'm not going to stop until I get it, then you're not going to stop when you no longer have a fat butt. You're going to keep working out. You're going to keep dieting until you actually get to that strong body. So NLP will actually help you analyze not just what are your deep motivations, what are your values, but how are you motivated towards those values or away from pain associated with those values. And then it will help you reorganize those pain points so that you are now, instead of working away from a fat butt, you're working towards a strong body and you're going to get there. And so NLP will then help you change those away motivations to towards motivations. Then it will help you to reorganize your value structure so that the top five values, the top five things that you find important to you about that area of your life are all deep motivations that get you toward that value in your life. It's a lot, I know. The values work will take us about a day and a half in our workshop together. But as you can see, this information is so important because it really does go to the basics of what's motivating you in your life. So your toward and your away motivation, your beliefs and your values, and whether or not they are actually in alignment with one another can actually make or break whether or not you reach your goals. What do you
Absolutely.
think about that, Vernon?
Absolutely. I have seen how the values work has impacted you in your life. And I know that it is a very involved process, a series of questions to identify what your values are. Most people don't even know what their values are. Well, I value lots of things, such as I value money. Good. Health, okay. Anything else? Love, okay. Now, do you have what you're valuing? No. Why? That's because your values and your beliefs, they're arguing with
We're
each
in
other.
conflict. Mhm.
So what it's going to
Absolutely.
take is for you to decide what you want to be clear on that you want to move forward with and how you see yourself. What's holding you back? Old beliefs, old past negative programming, because there are a number of people who will tell you, well, I tried to lose weight and took a couple of diets and it didn't work. So diets don't work. Maybe not for you, but to monitor what you eat, to be sure, and it's physics. If you burn more calories than you're taking in, then you're going to lose weight. That's just physics. But the question is how you
Beneath
find
that,
excuses not to do it.
absolutely. Beneath that, what is motivating your desire to lose the weight? Is it that you're seeking to be strong and healthy, or that you're just trying to get rid of that spare tire? One of those will support you reaching your goal, and the other will not.
Let me
So
throw in one other
here's,
one, Sean.
please.
There are, and primarily we're talking about the fairer sex, who don't really feel as though they deserve to have love, or maybe they have equated being in a relationship with pain. And so, what will stop a relationship from growing? Well, if you lose your attractiveness, then you don't have to be concerned about a relationship because nobody's going to want somebody with a fat butt. Ask Oprah. So, you continue to eat and you find that fewer and fewer members of the opposite sex want to become engaged with you. They don't want to spend time with you. They're not looking at you. They look at you. You don't have to worry about a relationship. It keeps the opposite sex away. It's not what you want, but it's what you're comfortable with. It's what you believe you deserve. So you really want to be clear about how you feel about yourself and whether you deserve to have love and what it's going to take for you to get that. Sean?
Here's what we would like for you to do. Pick an area of your life, thinking about that wheel of life. Pick one area of your life and then sit down and make a list of the values, the things that are important to you in that area of your life. And then once you have created your list, really look at each individual value that you have listed in that area of your life and ask yourself, why? Why is this value important to me? And as you answer that question, your toward motivation and your away motivation will begin to reveal itself. This is, again, nuanced work. And so just by identifying these things, you won't be able to completely eradicate all of that away energy. But what this will do for you is make you aware of it. You may not even be aware that you are motivated by pain in that particular area of your life. And so you can then begin to have conversations with yourself about ways that you can change your perspective so that you can begin to look at those particular areas of your life from a positive, more supportive perspective.
I think that you have given them their task for the coming week.
Yes, indeed.
What is
Yes,
important to
indeed.
you and why is it important? Good questions to have answers to. What is important to you and why is it important? And you'll begin to think, well, perhaps what I look like isn't as important to me as I thought it was. Or maybe my job really isn't that bad, or what I do for a living isn't that bad. May even be my company, I don't know. but you deserve to be happy, you deserve to be prosperous, and you deserve to be healthy. What are you going to do to make that happen? Spend time with us. We'll show you how.
Ladies and gentlemen, that is a perfect place for us to end it this evening. Go on and make your lists and drop a comment below and let us know how you have begun to think of your values in ways that you hadn't thought of them before. Have you now gained some perspective on your inner compass? Give us a thumbs up if the answer is yes. And share this video with someone that you know needs to take a deep look at their values and start to get to know themselves just a little bit better. We'll see you next week on Mind Mastery Accelerator.